Relax. It's ASMR. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another ASMR video. In this one, we are going to be doing something that was requested a while ago, and that is a what is on my iPad video. I did one on my iPhone quite a while ago, but I don't think I've ever done one about specifically what is on my iPad. I know I haven't done one on what's on this iPad. Pretty sure. So, anyway, if someone was to go look at my videos and let me know, that would be awesome. So, what I thought I'd do is just go through these apps one at a time and just kind of take you through everything generally, and then maybe dive into a few specifically and talk about it. And I do have, you can see here, an Apple Pencil that I use pretty regularly with this iPad, and it works amazingly. Got to put that LY on the end. Amazingly. So this first square here at the top, pointing right up here, this is video. And it has YouTube, Netflix, Apple TV, FaceTime, iMovie, and Amazon Video. The one I use the most is Netflix because sometimes I will watch it on my lunch break and I'll have it here, the iPad with me, and I can just flip it up, hit Netflix, and start watching. And I'll kind of do sometimes the same thing with YouTube as well, especially if I'm following a series and I'm really wanting to keep up with it on my lunch break. I use FaceTime to keep up with my family, but sometimes I use that on my iPhone instead of on the iPad. I don't really use iMovie that much, and I will watch the Amazon Video if I'm following a series instead of Netflix. But usually it's a Netflix show that I'm following. The next is Photo, and I used to have a lot of apps in here, and I just recently deleted them because I really don't use this iPad for taking photos and editing them in the way you normally would with these little apps that like put captions on them or correct the exposure or the color of the photograph and stuff like that. So I realized I wasn't using them, so I just deleted them. But I do have the camera app and Photo Booth, which come with the iPad. And this is Bitcam, which is a camera that converts the photo image into purely black and white. And it uses the same algorithm that the original Macintosh did back in the mid-'80s. So it's kind of a nostalgic feel. I don't use it that often, but it's kind of cool to have. I also have it on my iPhone, and every so often I'll break it out and use it. The next thing is books. We have the Blue Line Bible, which is pretty good. It lets you have access to various translations, plus access to commentaries and thesaurus and dictionaries and stuff like that that help you understand the text a little bit better. We have the Book of Common Prayer, which is an Anglican/Episcopal book of prayer that we use in our services. And this is the same thing. The daily office is kind of more concentrated just down to the parts of the prayer book that you need for just the services that you might be participating in on a daily basis. Documents is Numbers and Keynote. And then Pages is also the third one, but I have Pages someplace else. And these are just Apple's spreadsheet and presentation software. I have them here if I need them, but I don't really use them that often. Social, I have Discord, Twitter, Boomerang, and Reddit. Again, usually if I'm using these, I'm using them. Discord is on my Mac. Twitter, I don't use Twitter hardly at all. I still have an account, but I haven't touched it in ages. Boomerang, I think, is part of Instagram, so I could probably get rid of that. I do Instagram on my phone. And then Reddit, I do on my Mac as well. So I have them here if I need them, but they're not in high use. Reminders is here because it's an Apple product. I use reminders on my phone, but I use a different app for that. So I could probably get rid of that as well. Contacts is synced across all of my devices. So this is really useful to have. If I don't have my iPhone with me, I can still reach my contacts. Weather, I have dark sky. Again, I use it mostly on my phone, but I have it here. And VentuSky is a great app for showing wind patterns and intensity of wind patterns and rainfall. So it's a little bit more of a macro view of weather than dark sky, which is pretty much just your very local area, which I found to be extremely helpful. Duet is an awesome program that allows me to use this iPad as a second monitor on my Mac. And I've used it in the past pretty extensively. And then Apple came out with their solution to the problem that works over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, I'm not sure which. And it works great, but while it's using the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi for sharing screens, it shuts down other services that I need to use, like virtual networks, like a VPN and things like that. So I can't use VPN while I'm using Apple's screen sharing thing. But with Duet, since it happens through the plug-in that plugs into the side of the iPad, it keeps all of those services open. So I've gone back to using Duet specifically now because I am using VPN to work remotely. And that's something that's really changed how I use this iPad. And we'll get to that when we get down here to this app, down here at the bottom. Calendar, of course, always have access to my calendars. Messages, again, I don't use it as much on this iPad, but when I need to, I have access to it. Same with Safari. If I'm surfing the web, I'm usually doing it from my Mac, but I have it here. This is another browser. Safari and this are kind of the same thing. Photos, I don't store a lot of photos here, but I do have it if I need it. Most of my photos are on my Mac or my iPhone. And then Scribe is an awesome program to help you write long-form documents like novels and plays and scripts and books and short stories and all kinds of different things. And I used it pretty extensively when I'm writing my master's thesis. And having it here on my iPad helped tremendously because I could just pop this open when I was mobile, write a little bit, and it would sync up automatically with what I was having on my Mac at home. Books and Kindle, I do use this iPad ever so often to read digital books. I don't do it as much as I used to because I've gone back to reading actual paper books. I find that a lot more enjoyable. But I do have access to sometimes a lot of the research that I was doing. It was a lot cheaper to get the digital version of the book than it was the printed version. So I would just get the digital version and save myself a lot of money. And also it was searchable, which helped a lot as well. Shortcuts I don't use. I probably could get into shortcuts more. It's kind of an automated way to run Apple products and create little scripts and programs, which I find fascinating, but I just don't have the time to do that. Notes is synced up across all of my Apple products, so that has been really helpful. I can just jot a note down or something. I've been keeping track of what I've been doing when I'm working from home. I'm able to just type it into here and it shows up on all of my devices, which is awesome. This folder is audio, music, iTunes Store, GarageBand, podcast, iTunes U, and voice memos. If I'm listening to audio, it is usually on my iPhone. So these are here, but you can see most of these are just the default apps that come with the iPad. I don't typically listen to audio on my iPad like that. This is kind of a robust calculator. I use sometimes to do calculations if I need it. Shopping is Amazon and the Apple Store. I use those ever so often, but usually I'm using my Mac when I'm doing shopping online. Now, games, definitely something I use this iPad for. Not all the time, but it is a wonderful device to use for games. I used to have a lot more. I've gotten rid of them because I haven't been playing them that much. And I've been replacing them with games from the Apple Arcade, which I signed up for a few months ago with the whole pandemic stuff and being quarantined. Having access to a whole bunch of games just kind of made sense for like $5 a month. So I've been playing Dear Reader, which is a word game. So let's open up this and see what it's like. So we see here it says, Dear Reader, has the intro screen, a game of literary wordplay. So let's take this book here, which is one I'm working on. I have 10 chapters out of 11 chapters, so I've almost finished the book. And you click on it, and it pulls it up, and it goes chapter by chapter. And then, I have 20 out of 40 chapters. So let's start. And you can begin. And it gives you the text, a shortened version of the text from this book. Think of it like a summary of the book, not every absolute word of the book. And in this case, I need to swap words to complete the paragraph. So this and that, and this and that. And then it gives me a little bit more. And some of them are fairly easy. But as you unlock more and more puzzles, the harder and harder it gets. Sometimes when they have like periods or capitals, it helps you understand where it falls in a sentence. So that helps a lot. So, and there's words where there are puzzles where you have to find the words that are misspelled, where you'll have a list of letters down here at the bottom and you have to put the letters in. There's a variety of different types of puzzles. Some of them are easy. Some of them are pretty hard, and I've unlocked maybe half of them. So I really enjoy it because you can read the story, get into it. It's not stressful. You can do it timed or untimed. And so I've been really enjoying that app. These apps I just downloaded. I've been playing them on my Mac. This is a Lego game, which is pretty cool. You're kind of a little kid trying to find his dad who's lost, and you have some puzzles to overcome to find him. And then Tent is a game. See, I'm going to start this up for the first time. So it may take a while to load up. But it is basically a game involving mixing colors. So this is one of the more advanced levels. It's actually picking up from where I left off on the Mac. And so you have to drag these blobs of paint around, and you can mix them with other colors. So if I bring that in, that's green, and that'll let me cross this green line, and then I can reach my objective. And this takes away purple, but I don't have purple. So, and I see if I cross this red and it's green, I lose. So it is a game of strategy as well as a strategy as far as position and making sure you draw your lines correctly, as well as a strategy of colors combinations. So if I grab this and make this purple, then I go around to purple, it makes it clear, and with that I can punch through, and then I could get to this side, pick up some red, go through here. That's going to make that. So there's all different types of strategies you can use. So I've really been enjoying that game as well. And Scrabble, of course, is Scrabble. I've had it on this forever, so I enjoy playing that. And Frost is very just relaxing. The music on it is really cool. And it's almost not really a game as much as just a relaxing experience. Code Editor is just what it sounds like. It's part of a Mac program that I have when I write my HTML and design my sites. And it allows me to view the web page on the iPad in real time as I'm editing the code. It can be updating here on the screen. And it also allows me to code from the iPad as well. So I've used this in a pinch. There's been a few times when I've been out of town and I've needed to edit a web page. I've been able to pull this up and use it. That's been very helpful. Here's the App Store. Pretty much the same as everybody has. Measure is an Apple app that uses the camera to estimate the size of objects inside of it. I don't use it a lot, but the last time I used it was at IKEA. I could just scan the room a little bit. It got itself oriented, and I could mark out the dimensions of a table or a desk or a chair, just standing in front of it, and kind of get a good estimate for the size that we needed, because we knew the size that we needed to fit at the house. So that was cool. Clock is pretty self-explanatory. So is Mail. I don't use this Mail app here on this iPad that much. Apple apps are other things. Home, Find My, iPad, Tips, and Maps. I have used Maps when I'm on the road on the iPad because it's nice and big. These other ones I usually don't use that much. News is pretty self-explanatory as well. I don't use a lot of Apple News. Same with Stocks. This is an app that we can use at work to remotely access some programs that we need to access. Again, if I'm in a pinch and on the road, that's a very essential app to have, but for day-to-day use, I don't. This is called Banana Paint, and it is another nostalgic program. It basically emulates the old Mac Paint back from 1984, back when black and white was the only thing that you had to work with on a Mac. You did not even have shades of gray. The pixel was either 100% black or it was 100% white. And there's a surprisingly large amount of very good artwork that was done during that time. This is not an example of that. But it just gave you basic shapes. and a basic eraser. Eraser was basically just a square. But you could change the size of the line. Let's see. There we go. And they had a spray paint can. You could spray in patterns and create things like that. Very, very basic, but it was revolutionary at the time when the graphical user interface was brand new to consumer computers. And I spent many hours learning how to use this and other programs like that. So a bit of nostalgia. It's kind of fun. So Chrome is a browser. I use it ever so often. Some things work better in Chrome than others. So in Gmail, again, if I need to, I will use that. So that completes most of these apps. These apps down here are here for a reason, and that's because I use them pretty extensively. This is my work email. This has been really useful now that I'm working from home. This is now my primary interface for using email. Alerts to pop up and let me know there's an email. It shows up right on the screen. I have it set up in this little holder right beside my Mac, and I can keep tabs on things like that. Pages, when I'm writing, although I've used Scribed now more than Pages, but I still have it here. I probably should switch those out, since if I was going to write something, I would probably use Scribed now. This is a note-taking app that I used extensively when I was actually showing up for work in meetings. Instead of typing out my notes, I would write them on the screen. And I don't use that much anymore because most of our meetings are not in person. And so I'm sitting in front of my computer doing a Zoom call or something like that. And so I can just type my notes straight into that. So I don't use that as much anymore. I now use this primarily as a second screen, or I will use it as an email device, things like that. I do not use it necessarily to take notes anymore. These three apps here are probably the thing that I use the most. This is a sketching program. I think I've showed you this before. It just uses the iPencil, the Apple Pencil, and I'll let you draw on the screen and really have control of your brushes and shading and stuff like that. But the heroes of this iPad are these two programs here, which are Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer, which are full graphics design apps on the iPad. They do everything that the full version of the app does on the desktop. And this is something I was going through a tutorial on how to use the Affinity Designer for the iPad. And so this is one of the demonstrations. It has full vector capabilities to allow you to change and draw in vector mode. It has layers. Here's all the different layers that I've been using during this tutorial. You can reorder this position of layers. It has appearance. It has assets. It has access to stock photography. It has symbols, and it also has layer effects, so we can change effects. It also has adjustments. It has text, all different types of stuff. So I love working in this app. And again, if I'm on the road and I don't have access to my full machine, I can create the artwork that I need to create. And here we have the pixel mode, and then we have the export mode. So the app has 3 different main modes. Ton of features. And the same is true for Affinity Photo, which is a very robust photo editing program on the level of Photoshop. So here's another tutorial image that I've been working with, and you can see I have all of these layers that I can turn off and on, the adjustments that I've been making non-destructively to this image until we get down to the original one, and then I can turn on and change how it works. It also has, gradients. It has paintbrush. So if I'm trying to edit an image, then this is my preferred program, because again, it is 100% as capable as the desktop version. It's not a dumbed down version. It's not a hobbled version. It is the same. So it also has the photo persona, the selections persona, liquify, which is kind of neat. Can change that around. This is the develop persona for working with raw images. And tone map, I haven't used tone map a lot, but it allows you to subtly change the way the colors and the tones of the images are handled. And then there's, again, export like the other one. So these 2 programs I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm learning how to use them more and more on the iPad. And that has really expanded the use of this iPad from just a device to consume media on, or search websites, or check emails, or play games, to a full-blown productive machine that I can use in my profession. So then we have file folders that access the file folders on my iPad, preferences, and then these are the most recent apps that I had opened that we've looked at. I accidentally opened up Chrome, so that's why it's showing there. So that is pretty much what I have on my iPad. Again, the ways in which I use this are not as a replacement for a laptop necessarily, or even my Mac, but it is supplemental to fit into many different types of niches that I have, whether it be using it to entertain myself with a game, or to expand my desktop as a second screen, or to actually do production work on it. So I love this iPad, and the Apple Pencil just feels like a natural extension of my hand when I'm using it. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this has helped you maybe explore some different apps or for different uses for the iPad. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. I have a video coming up that I'm very excited about making, but shipment has been slowing down, so I don't have the materials that I need to make it, but it is a very highly requested video. So I'm looking forward to shooting that in the next few days. Hopefully all the materials I need will be here tomorrow. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.